Kiddushin, daf Yud Gimel, the 8-minute daf. How's everybody doing? If a person is mekadesh a woman with gezel or gneva, he stole it in front of them, behind their back. Chamas, he stole it and he paid for it. Mekudeshes, it's a good kiddushin. What happens if a person grabs something out of a woman's hand and gives it back to her and says, I'm giving it back to you on condition they become kudeshes to me, and she was quiet? So it depends. If they were already talking about shidduchim, they were talking about getting engaged, and he did so, then she's engaged to him. Otherwise, she can invoke the saying, in shakli v'dedi shakli. She doesn't really have to say it. We say it for her. Yes, I took it from you, but I took what was mine and rightfully deserving so. When Rav Asi was nifter, or Rebbe Asi, the Chacham gathered members that he said, so we have a lot of random halachas that don't really have to do with our sugya per se, but beautiful halachas. First halacha is that karka cannot be purchased bekinyan kesef with less than a pruta, just like a woman. However, if you're going to use chalip in a kinyan sudar, obviously the sudar never has to be worth a pruta. Another halacha, if a person is not fluent in the halachas of gitin and kiddushin, and he deals with gitin and kiddushin, he is worse than the dar hamabel. Dar hamabel, they didn't damage the fish of the generation, but this person is damaging the fish also deserve to die. There's a concept called shibuda deraisa. If somebody has a shibud, he has an obligation in a Torah, do you force the inheritors to pay up the obligation? So we say that shibuda is deraisa, whether it's a milva that's in the Torah, in other words, something that the Torah says you should do so specifically. For instance, like the carbon of a yoledes, a woman who gives birth has to bring 2 karbanos, chatas and an oila. What if she brought the chatas but not the oila? Her children are obligated to bring the oila for her, even if she didn't designate a bird for that cause. And in addition to that, if there's a milval peh, a verbal loan, the person who lent the money could go after the inheritors, and he could go after those who purchased property from the borrower, even though it wasn't in a shtar, it was verbally. According to Rav and Shmuel, you can't go after them. But the halacha is that shibuda is the iraisa to go after the inheritors. But you cannot go after the purchasers. Why? Because you can't fault them because they didn't know about it. Since it was a verbal loan, nobody knew about it. And you could say that he himself, the borrower, ruined it for himself, and Chacham made a special takana for the purchaser. What does that mean? He ruined for himself. He should have put it in writing, and he didn't. The Mishnah tells us that a woman acquires herself back when her husband dies. And the Gemara tells us a number of beautiful things here. First of all, we don't say that after the husband dies, it's usher to marry her, be'isr asay. In other words, since the Torah says, v'yatza v'haisa, that he sends her out, gives her a get, and she marries somebody else, so I would think that there's a mitzvah for her to get married, but that's only with a get. And if her husband dies, she has an isser to get married, and the isser turns into it's a lav that turns into an asay. So isser asay. But the Gemara says, since it says in the pasuk that if a person just got engaged, he shouldn't go out to war, because if he goes out to war and he dies, somebody else will take her. So you see that she's allowed to get married to somebody else. And the word acher cannot be a yavam, so therefore it means that anybody can marry her. So here's your source that after her husband dies, a woman can get married to anybody she wants. Another thing the Gemara says, it says in the pasuk, usneya ha'isha achrain v'kasav, he gives her a get, a yamos. So the Gemara says we have a hekesh between death and a get. Just like Gerushin it finishes off, it severs the tie, and she can marry anybody she wants, so too the death of a husband. The Gemara just says that you can't learn all this out of logic, that if a husband dies, she can marry anybody she wants. Why? Because the whole reason why she's an Eshes and she's usher to the world is because of the husband. Once he's gone, that Isser is lifted and she should be able to marry anybody she wants. We don't need a pasuk. The Gemara says no, because when she gets married, it creates new Isurim, new arais. For instance, she's usher to her father-in-law. And even after her husband dies, her father-in-law is still usher to her. So you see that the death of the husband doesn't lift all Isurim, so perhaps it doesn't lift her Isser. That's why we need to come on to a pasuk. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day.